hates when you do that.
This
I love
is
it.
Pop Culture Yearbook. On this show, we pick pieces of pop culture that were important to us in a given year. We then discuss memories and dig into those movies, albums, shows, and more. I'm Brad.
I'm Pete.
And I'm GIF. Hey,
And
guys.
I did it again 2 weeks in a row. I was listening to the
Whoops.
Parks and Rec one today and remembered how I had trouble getting through that opening there for a couple of
Uh-huh.
weeks.
Yeah, it's good fun.
So proud of myself.
I'm always proud of you.
Seems like you got a case of the yips.
Yeah. You
Mhm.
guys ready to remember some more dead guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Which
But,
dead guy are we going to talk about tonight?
Well, before we talk about a dead guy, let's talk about the wonderful live people that reach out to us on Twitter and Facebook and all those things. Please continue to do so. We thank you for that. And we are going to continue this week with our In Memoriam series. And we are going to talk about Ray Liotta this week. So going
Ray Liotta.
right. Well, going
Sorry.
through the people that unfortunately had passed, I thought about Bob Saget, Olivia Newton-John. Grease would have been
Olivia
huge
Newton-John.
to do.
You know what? Because I'm
Yep.
going to just mention something about Olivia Newton-John, because as I've talked about, I ran the half marathon this year. After she died, one of my runs, I played the Grease album, and I thought some of it was really great running music. I enjoyed it as much, if not more, than any of the other music that I had for running. So
Well,
it was
when you
fun.
run, you are compared to Greased Lightning.
That's right. That's
So-
what they call me when I'm running.
Mm-hmm.
Did you cream your jeans when you were listening to Grease Lightning?
Well done. Nice drop in there. I like that.
Oh my God, that song.
Well done.
So unfortunately this year,
That happens when people are running sometimes.
That
Uh-huh.
does. Yep.
Different kind of cream.
Okay then.
Moving on.
Moving on. So we lost Ray Liotta this year on May 26th. He was 67 years old, and he, fortunately, as everybody would like to, died in his sleep. Just a little interesting history I didn't know about Ray Liotta. He was abandoned at a Newark orphanage after
Really?
he was, so he was an orphan for about 6 months before he got adopted. But I had never heard about that before, and I just thought it was kind of interesting. Throughout his career, he has 126 credits. His first big role, I don't know if you guys know this movie, but I did watch it at least within the last year. 1986's Something Wild with Jeff Daniels and Melanie Griffith.
Yes.
And he
I haven't seen it probably since the 80s, but
Sure. But he did receive a Golden Globe nomination for his portrayal of Ray.
in that movie?
Yep.
Really? Wow.
In his first big role. And that was
Good for
really
him.
his biggest nomination in his career.
He didn't get nominated for anything for Goodfellas? Or Goodfellas?
Not like a Golden Globe or an Academy Award or anything like that. I mean, those are the two big ones, right?
Overshadowed
That
by those
is
other
an
guys.
oversight.
Yep. But there is a primetime Emmy on his repertoire in 2004. He won a primetime Emmy on ER. He had a short stint there.
I didn't know he was on ER.
Well, I didn't either. I didn't watch the show.
No.
But he one of his first big roles where the nation really caught on to him a little more was in 1989, Field of Dreams, where he portrayed Shoeless Joe Jackson. But the next year was really where he came to be a mainstream actor for playing Henry Hill in Goodfellas. Everybody loves Goodfellas.
Such a good movie.
And I think when people think of Ray Liotta, they think of Goodfellas first and foremost.
Was, one of my top choices for this particular assignment.
Those two movies, Field of Dreams and Goodfellas. That's the two big ones that I think about.
The other one that I think about.
Mm-hmm.
Were you done, Pete?
All I was going to say is that he was also my wife.
He was your wife?
No, he was not my wife. But she enjoyed watching. I can't remember the name of the show, but it was the show with Jennifer Lopez more recently.
Oh,
But I can't
yeah.
remember that. It was a cop show, so they were cops, but kind of
Television show.
Oh yeah. Was it
I think
something
it was on
blue?
CBS. Yeah, I think it was something blue.
Something old, something new.
No, but it
Yeah.
was something blue. It was like
We can look that
Jersey
up.
Blue.
You keep talking, I'll look it up.
I'll tell you the movie that I don't know if Gifford was going to mention, but that I think of him a lot too. I don't remember if it was actually a good movie or a horrible movie, but a lot of us went to the movie theater and saw Unlawful Entry with Kurt Russell and Madeline Stowe and Ray Liotta. And that was a pretty good thriller, or at least a memorable thriller from 1992.
Okay. I was
I
not
got
going to
that
bring
right,
that
don't
one
I?
up.
I'm pretty
Yes.
sure those are the three people in that movie.
I believe you are correct. I was going to bring up 97's Copland. He played Sinatra in the 98 movie Rat Pack. I remember him from 01's Hannibal, where he played
Oh yeah, he's
a
in that
character
too.
who ends up with his having his brain eaten while he's still alive. That was kind of
Yep.
interesting.
Oh yeah, he's the one with the brain.
Yep. And then 03's Identity. I think.
Oh, he's in that too?
Yep.
That's a
He's
good
the
movie.
escaped. I don't want to say anything. Spoiler alert. But he plays a law officer transporting a convict in that movie. That's all I'll say about it. But he does a great job in that as well. So
Shades of Blue. Shades of Blue.
Not Jersey Blue.
50 Shades of Blue.
Not something blue.
50 Shades of Blue. That sounds hot.
It does.
It lasted for 3 seasons, starting in 2016.
Oh,
so there you go.
So he did a lot of things.
Yeah,
he did. He did
quite a bit. And all of those great movies. I did not pick any of those.
Yep.
Instead, I went with 2001's Heartbreakers. This movie came out March 23rd of 01, had a budget of $37 million and raked in $58 million at the box office. So not a huge moneymaker, but it did open at #1 its first weekend. And
it does have a heck of a cast.
Yes, it does one heck of a cast. I did want to start with our director. Our director, David Merkin, which is a very unfortunate last name in show business, because I don't know if you guys know what a merkin is, but it is a fake pubic hair used in the movies to cover up the actual regions of actors and actresses.
I wouldn't have thought there was a word for that.
Yes, there is. Yeah, that's what you used that one time in that movie that you.
That's right.
Yes.
I thought they called them pube wigs.
Well, that's too on the nose, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But his first.
Does he wear a pube?
Are you getting into the whole cast already, or are you going to talk about why you picked it and when you saw it?
Oh yeah, I should do that. So I believe that I went to this in the movie theater in 01.
Did you really?
Yeah. And I love con movie, caper movie. That whole thing, I just get a kick out of it, just how they pull the stuff off. And I love the cast, so I went, I bought the DVD, I still have it. That's what I watched it on in preparation for this, and
What's really fun for me when you talk about those caper movies is the caper movies that don't take themselves too seriously. Right. This is an example. There's a couple of other ones we'll talk about at the end of the show, but they just make them fun, make them action packed, make them funny, and don't worry too much about what's realistic or even high quality in some cases. So,
right.
Yeah. So I saw this on DVD or maybe even VHS, possibly. Not, thinking back, it's possible.
A VCR tape?
I'm not sure. But I have the DVD as well, and I know that my wife and I watched this movie and didn't really know a ton about it, and it was a huge surprise. And I know we both loved it, didn't expect it to really be that funny, and we watched it a few times. And I don't think I've watched it since. It's probably been 18 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember it too well, but I was really excited to watch it and was really excited that you picked it. Let's see
Excellent.
if that lived up to it.
Right.
That's how I felt going in.
Cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Really excited.
Pete,
All
how about
right.
yourself?
This
are
was
your
the
memories?
first time. Well, I'd never seen this movie before.
Ah.
I'd barely heard of it, and I just it totally fell off my radar and everything until you said, "Hey, let's do Heartbreakers," and so I watched it last night. As a matter of fact, so my memories of it are sitting on my love seat, watching it and getting ready for this show. Fond memories.
Wonderful. That is great. Okay, so getting back to our director, David Merkin, his first directing gig, he did 3
Merkin.
episodes of Newhart.
Mm,
Oh,
love
really?
it.
Yep. And then he also did 21 episodes of Get a Life.
We've talked about that.
We've talked
Oh,
about that, so I wrote
Chris
it down.
Elliott.
Chris Elliott,
Set
the
in
one that takes
Minnesota.
place in Minnesota.
St. Paul, in fact, yes. And then the other big one that he did was Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Oh yes, see, I saw that, and I mentioned that movie last week, and that
Yes,
made
you
me
did.
like, okay, I love that movie. I think I still would if I watched it again.
Yeah,
What did I think of this one? I guess we'll find out.
I want to watch that again because now we've talked about it 2 weeks in a row, and I feel like I need to do that. I was going to get into the cast here, so star-studded cast. We've got Sigourney Weaver, who plays.
That was from Rappy, right?
That was it was from the last initials game for Halloween there, but yeah, Sigourney Weaver. Among many of the character names she has, she plays Max. She is the mother to Jennifer Love Hewitt's character of Paige. We have Gene Hackman, plays Tenzi. Ray Liotta, of course, plays Dean. We have Jason Lee playing Jack in this. And then we also have Anne Bancroft in her last live action role before her
this was
death
the last
in 05.
one?
Yes.
Well, there's also a young unknown Zach Galifianakis and a not too well-known Sarah Silverman in it with very small throwaway parts, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Nora Dunn.
Could have taken it. Yeah, Nora Dunn.
That was a surprise to me. I didn't recognize her the first time that she came on screen. I just didn't even think about it. And then later I was like, wait a second, she looks familiar. Who is that? I'm like, oh my God, that's Nora Dunn, who I had not heard of at all since the great 1980s run on Saturday Night Live. I remember her as what was her name? Leona Helmsley.
Oh yes,
she played
that. Her best.
Leona Helmsley and other roles. So always fun.
We also have it as a hotel manager in this movie. We have Jeffrey Jones, who is known for being the principal in Ferris Bueller's Day Off and also the father in Beetlejuice.
Yes.
So those, do you guys have anything else for the cast? Those were kind of the big ones.
No, you covered them. Oh no, there's a cameo by Carrie Fisher.
Oh
yeah, right. Carrie Fisher was in
that one. I didn't even know was coming, and she's not even listed, I don't think, but she had a small cameo as a lawyer.
Is she at the? Is she
right
the first
beginning.
lawyer? Okay, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Earlier in the movie, the first divorce hearing or proceeding, however you want to call it.
Yep, I got it written down in my notes here. I just
got it written down.
Written down. Oh, there she is, Carrie Fisher. All right, so we get into the movie here, and I thought right off the bat, the opening music sounded a little bit like a Beetlejuice music. The beginning of Beetlejuice, kind of playful, but yet a little off key, or
just like you, Gifford, playful but a little off key.
Yep.
Yes. So we start the movie in a church. We've got Sigourney Weaver's character Angela at this point getting married to Ray Liotta's character Dean. We come to find out that Dean is very much looking forward to the honeymoon because his bride has used religion as a reason to not make whoopee during their courtship. So he's very excited to get back to the hotel room, and during the reception, she dances with everybody there, just delaying getting back to the honeymoon suite. I think she ends up dancing with one of the busboys, and he is just at his wit's end. And I love the scene where they finally get out of there, and he's carrying her from the elevator. and down the hallway, but the hallway
It's
is
a
like
very
just
long haul.
goes forever. And he's just doing his best to carry her.
But he's
And
also running too.
Well, she starts whispering things in his ear, and so he starts running and tries to open the door and ends up kicking it in his frustration.
And by the way, he's classic Ray Liotta in this whole procedure here. I mean,
Yes.
he has that psychotic, I don't know what you want to call it.
A little bit of an edge to him.
Edge. That's a
Yes.
good word.
That gleam in his eye.
Yes.
Yes.
So I love the scene. They get back into the hotel room, the honeymoon suite finally, and Sigourney Weaver, she gets down in front of him and unzips his pants. And of course, we don't see it, but she takes out his member.
We don't see it, but we imagine it.
And her expression is, "Oh my God." And he goes, "That's how much I love you." And she says, "You must love me a lot." So they end up on the bed, and he is trying his damnedest to get her out of her lingerie, and it's just
corset. It's like a tight corset, I think you call it, right?
And he needs to get some big time. And while he's doing all of this, she passes out. She starts snoring, and he thinks about dumping the ice from the champagne bucket on her, and then ends up dumping it down his pants to cool his jets. And he sits there all night long in a chair next to the bed, watching her, waiting for her to wake up. So they unfortunately do not consummate their marriage on the first night. So he has to head to work first thing in the morning before they head out on their honeymoon. And we come to find out that, like Pete says, this is classic Ray Liotta. So his business is a chop shop. Mm-hmm. So kind of, outside the law, and that's kind of how we know him from other roles, particularly Goodfellas.
You kind of see two sides from Ray Liotta early off the bat, because for one thing, he is actually supportive of her waiting until, he's a chop shop, which he's a bad guy in that regard. And he kind of gets pissy with his friends, but at the same time, he is supportive of his new wife, and he waited for her. And then he had this opportunity. She falls asleep. And like you said, he doesn't dump the ice on her like he wants to. He, he is still being supportive.
Correct. But so he heads back to the shop, and he goes up to his office because he got some paperwork to do. But he is still highly wound up because, he's full, if you will. And he walks into his office.
Oh, we will.
Yes. And we meet for the first time his secretary, Wendy, played by Jennifer Love Hewitt, and I'll just say she is looking very good in this scene. She's wearing just a tiny, short, tight little gray dress, and of course she is, she's a very bubbly, innocent character here, and we have an interaction between her and Dean, who's Ray Liotta, where she's got to get some paperwork signed, and everything she does is extremely seductive, and he is doing his best to stay true to his wife. Doesn't want to touch her, doesn't want to do anything, until there's a scene where finally he just gives way and they start making out. And they make it over to his desk, and, he sits in the chair, and of course she goes, downstairs. And I love the part where you hear his pants unzip, and she goes, "Oh my God." And his response of just, "Thanks." The way he says thanks is just so funny. He's like hurriedly saying
like hyperventilating because he just cannot wait.
Because he can't wait. And of course her response is that frostbite from the ice in his crotch the night before. And he's just like, whatever, just get on with it. And at this moment, there's a knock on the door, and his wife, Sigourney Weaver's character, comes walking in to surprise him. And Wendy's stuck under the desk, and they're about to get away with it. His wife ends up leaving. He freaks out, gets her out from under the desk. Of course, her hair's stuck in his zipper. And then the wife walks back in, sees her kneeling in front of him at this point, and that's it for that marriage. She wants a divorce immediately. So we come to see them get into divorce. Carrie Fisher is her lawyer. She clears, I think, what was it, $300,000?
Yes,
And
but she only told her daughter in a minute here that it was 80,000. So
correct. So once she leaves those proceedings, she heads to a gas station, and that's where we see Wendy get out of a cab, and we come to find out that Wendy is in fact Paige, who is Sigourney Weaver's daughter, and they are a duo of con women, and they've set up.
Hence the little clothes, because her job is to seduce men and make them screw up.
Correct. And I think in the past I've said that I'm a big fan of the costume designer for Clueless.
Yeah.
I'm also a huge fan of the costume designer for Jennifer Love Hewitt's character in this movie. And let me just preface that by saying her job is to seduce men. And she is put in these tiny little dresses, tiny little outfits throughout the entire show for that express effort. And she does a great job. I mean, I think she's 20 when this was filming, or 20, I think, when they were filming this. She is completely awesome, and I love every scene.
She is completely awesome.
Holy.
We just want to dedicate the rest of this episode to that.
Right. Yes.
Just keep going, Gifford. Just keep
This
going.
is supposed to be a tribute to Ray Liotta.
Yes. All right.
Who?
So as Brad said that Sigourney Weaver's character lies to her and says they only cleared $80,000. We come to find out that Paige, Jennifer Love Hewitt's character, wants to go out on her own. And she wants to get her half of the money, and her mom doesn't think that she's ready yet. Because when she was her age, she fell for a guy, got pregnant, ended up with a daughter, and she doesn't want to see the same thing happen to her daughter. So they decide to go to the bank and get all their money out, split it up, go their separate ways, and that's where we see the IRS agent show up, played by Bancroft, and she basically says, IRS is taking all of your money.
Of seducing.
What's that? Oh,
you tried to seduce me, Mrs. Robinson?
Correct. Yep. So they get cleaned out by the IRS. They're down to, I think, $2,600 to their name. So now they have to stay together and go for one last big score in order to, get back on track. So they decide to head to Miami to go for Big Fish in Palm Beach. And that's where the movie ends up. We see them checking into a hotel, and that's where we meet Jeffrey Jones as the manager. He's awesome.
This is really all just exposition, and that's probably a good 20 to 25 minutes into the movie. The first thing I noticed when I looked this movie up to watch it, and I was all excited.
Yep.
It's over 2 hours long, and it is a straight comedy. And I was like, wait a minute, that can't be right. This is going to be an hour and a half. And I turned it on, and it was 2 hours. And I'm like, okay, here we go.
Yep.
I know
it was not necessary. They could have cut out a lot.
Oh
they
my god! This is the part where now it starts to, like, you got to get a little more here with Gene Hackman and everything. But this, so Ray Liotta, they flash back to him once early in this part, and he's all mad. But he says he's going to go find her, and he says he's going to, quote, take care of it, like he's going to kill her or something.
Right.
Like, okay, so he's still in the movie.
Yep.
But we don't see him for over an hour after that comment, and that just seems a little ridiculous. You'd think you'd at least see him in flash, like moving down to Miami or something. Like, he just disappears completely.
I thought that it was going to be like a chase movie where you'd constantly be going back to him and his search for them or something like that. Not having seen the movie before, but I thought that was, and I thought that's where it was going, that was going to be the central point to the movie, while these two women are conning all these other men, that he was constantly chasing them.
Or you'd see like a plan in place that he's concocting or something. So that was between
Yeah,
the
yeah.
time and then him disappearing. Those were the things that really started to make me like rethink and be a little bit frustrated with what I was excited to watch. I mean,
Yes.
it's still a fun movie overall. It just could have been so much shorter.
It could have been.
Yeah.
In that scene where we pop back to Dean talking about, he's still thinking about Angela. The one thing I wrote down here is one of his workers comes in and says, "Boss, we just got in 3 Camrys. They're in cherry condition. We can get $100,000 for the parts alone." So I looked it up. MSRP on a top end Camry back in 2000 was $26,653. So you could go buy 3 brand new Camrys for 80 grand. So I don't know how you're going to get 100 grand out of the parts alone. But
You really did your research.
That is some terrible plot hole. Now I'm really upset with this movie.
so we're back with the ladies in Palm Beach, and
There is another cameo here. I hope you're gonna. They go to the bar and they like have a
Yep.
little
Oh, no.
duel to try to get somebody.
I'm getting there.
Pete, who's the guy at the bar?
That's another Saturday Night Live legend from the same era as Nora Dunn. That was Kevin Nealon.
Yeah, it was fun to see him.
That is
Yeah, it
correct.
was.
So while they're doing their scouting, they see this one doctor that Paige wants to go after. He's young, and she wants to be the one who's the primary, but he's a mama's boy, so they want to go with Tinsy, who is played by Hackman, and he made all his money in Big Tobacco. And I love the very first scene to the very end scene with Hackman. He's aptly named for this role because he is constantly hacking up a lung to the point where he almost passes out. I think the first time goes down to one knee.
I guess I didn't look. Is he? If you went back and watched it, is he smoking a cigar or a cigarette like literally every
All the
second
time.
he's on screen?
Yes.
All the time.
I'm
pretty
sure he is
every single time.
because he is.
It's constant. So they have to decide who to go after. So they use this competition to see who can get Kevin Nealon, who's a schmuck sitting at a bar, who can get him to buy them a drink first. Whoever he says, then, that's who they go after.
By the way, this had to have been one of Gene Hackman's last movies. He's still alive, but is just totally retired. But
well,
he
in
retired
2001,
like 15 years ago. But
in 2001, I think he had 4 credits just for that year alone. And then,
is he 95 when I looked it up? Or I mean, he's.
I thought it was 91.
Okay, so over 90 in.
Mm-hmm.
Over 90 for sure.
Yep.
I can look that up to make sure, but
I don't think we need to. But go ahead,
you guys go on. I'll look it up.
So basically, they decide to go after him. They find out that he's going to an art auction. So that's the first time that Sigourney Weaver's character is going to make contact with him. She plays basically a Russian heiress, has a Russian accent, which is awesome. And after he leaves there, Paige is supposed to use strips, what do they call them? To pop the tires on his car, and that's how she's going to be able to spend a little more time with Tinsy. But while she is not busy, she heads over to check out the doctor that she wanted to go after. He was going to a bar, and so she heads over there to try to get to seduce him and use him as a mark. And this is where we meet Jason Lee's character for the first time, Jack. As well as Zach Galifianakis and Sarah Silverman, who work at the bar with him. So basically, she acts like a total wench to Jason Lee's character because she's only interested in the rich doctor that's there. That doesn't.
I'm willing to explore the whole being dominated thing, but let's just take it slow.
Correct. Yes. And I would like to point out the fabulous, very modest pink dress that she's wearing during this entire scene. Very, very nice. So anyway, it doesn't really work out for with the doctor, and she's just a total hag to Jason Lee's character. So she gets the call from her mom that Tinsy's leaving, and she's got to get in place so she can, disable his car. and everything just kind of goes wrong here. Jason Lee, Jack follows her out of the bar because she forgot her purse, and so they get more invested in each other. Anyway, they end up in an accident. Tinsy and Olga, that's who Sigourney Weaver's playing at this point now. So she starts getting in good with him. The whole plan is, again, to, get married and have things fall apart and get a huge divorce settlement. I think he's worth $3 billion. Was that the story on him?
It was, I'm pretty sure they said 3 billion.
Correct.
Sounds right.
Yep. So I will say, because it does come into play later in the movie, there's a statue that Sigourney Weaver ends up buying during this art auction. She's bidding it up with Tinsy, and she ends up winning the auction because Tinsy goes into one of his coughing fits again and can't bid. So she doesn't know how she's going to pay. I think it's $180,000 for this thing. So she kind of flirts with one of the guys that's moving the statue, and the statue is a nude statue with pretty good fonts on it. And while she's flirting with the guy moving it, the penis gets knocked off of it. So now she's claiming, I don't want to buy this thing anymore. So that does come into play a little later in the movie. That's why I wanted to bring it up.
By the way, Gene Hackman is 92. I want to make sure that I bring that up for our listeners.
Thank you, sir. And still kicking.
Still doing well, from what I know.
Yes. All right. So Olga is getting in good with Tinsy, and she goes to his house. And this is the first time that we meet Nora Dunn's character. She's the housekeeper. And she's on to her right away because the housekeeper's like, I've been doing 7 years with this guy. He's close to death. Like, she's looking for a payout, and she's not buying.
We found out she doesn't care about him. She thinks she's going to get the money and doesn't want it taken from her.
Correct. So we're going to have to deal with Nora Dunn at some point, the housekeeper. But in the meantime, Paige finds out that Jack, Jason Lee's character, owns that bar and has offers on the table for $3 million. So she's thinking, well, I can work this scam as well. And so she starts going after him to seduce him to try to get some cash out of him as well.
Jason Lee was in a lot of stuff at this time, and I've always liked him, but sometimes, like in this movie, he can just be so boring. Like, he can just play such a straight arrow character that it's just like, it's just, this character doesn't really bring anything to the table. And I think that's part of the reason why it starts to drag here, is because this whole thing, even though I like him, it just doesn't, it's just not interesting. I don't care about these two getting together, and it just doesn't seem, I don't know.
The whole thing is forced.
I kept waiting for more from this great cast that they have. You got Zach Galifianakis, you got Sarah Silverman.
Yeah, they
all had just kind of bit roles that they didn't do anything funny or anything.
They're not comedians. They're just totally just straight boring people.
Exactly. And
Lee has some fun lines.
Well, he does, but they are so off in the background that.
Yes,
Brad's right though on this.
Thank you.
Yeah,
right. Well, that whole relationship between Paige and Jack is just, it doesn't fit. None of it works. Because you got
just wait till the ending.
She's
he's an idiot though.
He's a complete moron. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no reason whatsoever that he would ever be interested in her and take the steps that he does to keep at her with the way.
I can think of two reasons. I can think of two reasons.
No, because he's such a nice guy and he's so normal. That's not his style, is to go get the hot, like he genuinely wants her for her, personality and her brain, not for the stuff.
But
Gifford's
there's nothing else
about.
that's likable about her. He knows that she's a liar. And he knows all of this stuff about her, and she treats him like shit. There's no redeeming qualities that he should go back to her for.
There's nothing. There's no reason that he would ever care.
No redeemable personality qualities.
And you know what? If he's interested in just getting some some nice body, he lives in Miami. He can go find somebody else.
Yes, for sure.
And he does have the bar that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah,
correct.
So
we go back to Tinsy and Olga. on their date, and he takes her to a Russian restaurant.
Okay, this is the part of the movie where I really started to write down some negative thoughts.
Okay.
Oh.
So the waiter that is taking care of them, he speaks Russian, and of course he keeps speaking to her in Russian, and quickly finds out that she has no idea what he's saying.
She's just saying yes to everything, which
yeah,
is
da.
da.
Uh-huh. So she pays him off to keep his mouth shut, and then the house band, she ends up getting up on stage, and they're like, well, everybody from Russia knows, this, I don't know, an old folk song from Russia. And she's up there just floundering, and Tinsley's starting to get suspicious. So she turns around and tells the band to, play a song, and it turns out to be back in the USSR.
And this is where the movie, I said this is just dragging, and this scene was just the low point of the movie to me.
Oh, I liked it. I thought it was fun. I love her accent. It's just, I liked it.
I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was the low point of the movie.
No, this is not the
Brad,
I'd be
Brad,
curious
you're
what you
wrong.
think was the
You're
low
Brad.
point then.
I don't have a particular low point that in the movie.
I don't
just
mind her
was
accent and the whole Russian thing, like her character. It just this whole having to watch her sing this was just like, my God.
It did drag on.
Talk about
I did think
forced.
it dragged on a little bit. Yeah.
All right, so the next
And I'm writing
day,
in my notes, where is Ray Liotta?
right? Yeah, he's coming. He's coming. So the next thing I got is Olga and Tenzi out golfing. I thought maybe Brad would like this part because of his golf cart looks like a Rolls Royce.
Oh yeah, nice golf cart.
And of course, he's talking about testing cigarettes on 9-year-olds. And his line
Yes,
here is,
that was a funny line.
after a little puking, you can't drag them away from the stuff. Smoking is part of the fun of being a kid. And again,
I had that quote written down.
yes.
I was going to say that.
I mean, he even gives her a lighter as a gift. He makes the comment because she does not smoke. She's against smoking. And he makes some comment about nothing's more sensuous than a woman smoking, and she's just not having any of it.
His true love is smoking.
Yes, it is.
If this was Love Actually, he would end up with a pack of cigarettes.
Right. Well, and that
Not
comes,
the-
I can't believe
in
I
a
didn't
little
think of that.
into play a little later too. So I mean, he portrays just the most disgusting character, and he does it so well. I mean, he's got liver spots everywhere. He just looks awful all the time. As they're leaving, as she's leaving that night, she asks for a kiss. Of course, he takes a big drag from his cigarette right before he goes in for the kiss.
And blows it in their face.
Well, yes. I mean, everything about him is so, oh, yeah. But I love it. I think he plays it perfectly. So we got to get rid of the housekeeper. Again, she's suspicious. So they set her up to make it look like she's stealing. So Paige comes over, gets in and goes up to the maid's room, takes the lighter that Olga was given as a gift, puts it in her dress. They go upstairs with Tinsley, and he's finding all this stuff. There's all of his his dead wife's jewels in the pillowcase. So he's having a harder time. But the thing that really pushed him over the edge was when Olga opens up a wardrobe and all of these cartons of cigarettes fall out from it. So what really sets him off is not the gift that he gave to Olga, not his ex-wife's jewels, but the fact that she would steal cigarettes from him is just beyond the pale.
Stealing the president's rubies.
Yes. Yeah. Where's Burt Macklin?
I keep thinking about that line like all the time.
Until I was framed for a crime I didn't commit.
Somebody asked me what I plan, why I'm going down to Brazil, and I said, and I think in my head, I don't actually say it, but that's the first thing I always want to say because I stole the president's rupees.
So now they need to install Paige as the new housekeeper, so they basically are going to run the same scam on Tinsy and use her as the young sex pot for him to end up, probably trying to have sex with so they can break off the wedding. When
to have sex with.
Yes, exactly. So she shows up to interview as the housekeeper. Again, top-notch wardrobe selection here.
Well, you did skip a line that I had written down.
Oh, go ahead.
Because the cops are taking away Nora Dunn after that, and he goes, "If it's at all possible, could you slap her around a little?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was not happy with her at all. So they have her interview with Tinsy, and of course there's a scene where she spills water on him and then tries to clean up his wet crotch. This is Paige's character, of course, doing all that. So they've got everything set up to where now we just need to have him propose to Olga. And then they'll basically run the same scam on him. So during this time, like Jack professes his love to Paige's character. Who's Paige in this? Jane, I think she says she is.
Yeah, Jane.
And then we also see Max meet up with Barbara. Sigourney Weaver meets up with Barbara, who is the IRS agent.
And Bancroft.
Yep. And we come to find out that is Max's mentor in the con game, and they basically conned the daughter, so they still have all of the money. So that's you're starting to see quite a bit more dysfunction between this daughter.
In this scene, this is another thing. So they got all this money. So we find out they do have all this money. I mean, and I get it, if you're a con person, you like to play games, but they can't even buy a lunch here and there.
Right.
And they don't act like there's something wrong with it. They literally put glass on their plate. Like how often do you find glass on a plate at a restaurant? It just seems like the dumbest con, and they did it more than once. Mm-hmm. So I didn't like that either.
If they figured out it worked, why not?
I enjoy.
Well, it worked because it's a movie. I feel like in real life that is a completely idiotic idea.
Yeah. Well, and then how they got the gas from the gas station,
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. I think I read the only thing that these two characters ever pay for in this entire movie is when Olga slips the waiter money to keep him quiet.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because otherwise, the hotel stay in Palm Beach was paid for because Paige falls and says she hurt her back, so they comp their room the whole time they're there. It's just con after con.
I'm glad you brought that up because there was kind of an important moment that happened at that time because they fake it. Well, actually, the mom spills water on the floor and Jennifer Love Hewitt slips. And it was a legitimate slip because she didn't know that she was going to do that. It wasn't rehearsed.
Right.
Or anything.
Her mom tripped her.
Yeah. Well, she put water down on there to trip her.
Yeah. Yeah. So they go upstairs, and then the reason for it is because she was explaining she's not very good when she does her fall. She's not a good actor at it. And then so they did that. But then they're like on the ground and laughing with each other, which was kind of the first moment that you felt that they actually had a mother-daughter relationship. Because up until that point, they were kind of arguing and fighting pretty much the whole movie up until then.
Well, and that scene where she, trips her in the lobby, and she goes down. In real life, Jennifer Love Hewitt broke her finger on that fall.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that was kind of an interesting little thing there. But
you should have been there to give her CPR, Giff.
I don't know if a broken finger requires CPR.
Oh, you would have tried.
Maybe.
It's too bad she didn't fall forward.
I say that because CPR is coming up here pretty soon.
Yes.
And
that is our next part here. So Tinsy.
Well, there's two before that.
Okay.
So you talked about Jennifer Love Hewitt and Jason Lee getting together, but then they start to fight too. They got to go through the whole thing. But the one line I liked was he told her that he loved her, and she said, and she wouldn't say it back. And he said, "Look me in the face and say you don't love me." And she just looked at him and said, "I don't love you." And he goes, "Wow, that was more believable than I thought it would be." Right. That was one of his best lines in the movie, so I wanted to say that one.
Wonderful. Okay, so we've got
And
Tinsy.
Gene Hackman's best line is coming up too.
Yes. Tinsy surprises Olga at the hotel, at her hotel room, and he comes in with the statue that she bought, and had the penis put back on it.
Expertly repaired.
Repaired.
If I had a nickel.
So she starts telling him that they need to break off their relationship because she's going to be deported. You know, the whole thing where, well, let's get married so we don't get deported. So he doesn't know this. He's like, oh, that's too bad, you know, because I was going to propose. But if you're leaving, like, you know, I guess I won't propose to you. So she has to basically go, I don't know anything, but if we get married, then, you know, I can stay. So, of course, you know, he's like, well, yeah, let's get married then. So I love this scene where she comes out of the bedroom in this suite, and he's standing there in his boxers, a undershirt, and socks with like the
Suspenders up.
The sock suspenders
over the knees.
Right. And her line is, oh, that's jarring.
But he has the great line,
Yes.
let's hump.
Yeah. Right, because she's using the same excuse she used on Dean, like, oh, you know, we can't have sex until we're married. And his thought is, well, I proposed, so in God's eyes, the rest is all paperwork. So he's ready to get after.
The word hump always makes me laugh.
Yeah, correct.
Noted.
So she's trying to kind of stay clear of him, and he goes into one of his famous coughing fits again. And this time, it's such a violent coughing fit that he falls over into the statue. The penis of the statue goes right into his mouth, and he collapses on the floor and dies. And
She tries to save him.
The best physical comedy in this entire movie comes right here, where now she's got to save his life because she needs him to be alive so they can get married and the whole thing. So she goes to give him mouth to mouth, and when she comes back up,
this is it.
She exhales nothing but smoke. So even to his last breath, Hackman's character is filled with, it's so great. I mean, the whole movie, that's the best part of the whole movie.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one of my favorite parts.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Followed by my other low point of the movie here, directly after.
Go ahead.
Well, so the daughter comes up, and they get him in a big bag, and they got to figure out what to do. And it's like, what are they going to do? They're putting him out on the balcony because they're going to. Why are they doing that? Because
room service showed up with the oysters that Tinsy had ordered.
And so we don't see his body because it's all wrapped up, but it falls over and it goes down like 4 stories and just slams on the ground. And it's really disturbing. It's not funny at all.
Yeah.
And the way they treat this body is like, that is not funny. That does not fit. It's too far.
It is.
There was, before that happened though, backing up a minute, when they're still in the bedroom, did you think of Clerks, the end of the movie Clerks? The way that the sheet was over him, and he had the big.
Yeah,
did he in this one have that too?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When they put the sheet over him, he was turgid, to say the least. So he ends up the corpse of Tinsy falls over the railing of the balcony. So Max, Sigourney Weaver's character, she heads downstairs. And this is where we get reintroduced
finally
to our favorite character, and that is
take care of it.
Yeah.
At this point, I had totally forgotten he was in the movie.
And what'd you say, Pete?
I said at this point I had totally forgotten he was even in this.
You do.
Well, yeah.
And the movie was dragging to me, and it's so damn long. But then he comes back, and luckily, he actually is the star of this movie, and his performance from here on out left me with a pretty good feeling at the end, at least, that I wasn't having before.
Yes. So he proposes to Max. So he runs up to her and drops down on one knee, gets his ring out, and he he just professes his love for her. He's so excited to see her, and of course she is like, you know, freaking out because now they got a dead body on their hands. They don't know how to get rid of him. Did you guys happen to notice that this lobby was the same lobby from Mr. and Mrs. Smith with the
No.
staircases coming down from the top?
Really?
No? Okay. The scene where they're dancing, and then the great scene where he comes back, you know, from the dead, and they're dancing, and, you know, anyway, the same thing.
Well, yeah, and then he winks at the camera when she drops to her knees.
Yes, that's
the same location, right? Yes.
So I love Dean's line in this. He's professing his love for Angela, who he believes, you know, is Angela still. And he says he's changed. He says, because this place is crawling with prime trim, and I barely even noticed.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, and then is it in the same scene where she like basically keeps turning him down, and he starts to leave, and he's walking away, and I don't remember what she says, but I love his line. I stopped walking, didn't I?
No, that was later.
Okay.
So anyway, she
another line that he just nailed just right.
She convinces him to go up to her room and get into bed, and she basically just ties him up and leaves him there, so they can go take care of Tinsley's corpse. And at one point, the maid comes in, and this is where the maid finds Tinsley's wallet. So he catches on to the fact that, you know, they're basically playing another guy, and that he was duped in the first place. So he heads over to Tinsley's while they're trying to basically stage that he died at home. And he finds Angela or Max or Sigourney Weaver character underneath Tinsley's corpse, and it sounds like they're humping. She's trying to, you know, get out from underneath this huge dead body. And he comes in with a gun, and this is where he starts going off on these two, because he finds out that Paige is her daughter, that, you know, they're super sick. You know, you let your daughter seduce me. He calls her junior slut, which I thought was very funny. So basically, from this point on, I thought the plot was awful. I'm basically going to sum up here. They decide to go after Jason Lee's money, so Paige is going to seduce him. They're going to get married. They're going to run the same con on him, where Sigourney Weaver is going to, you know, sleep with him, and then they'll get divorced, and she'll get a settlement.
But at
So
the wedding,
this is the point where
yes,
sorry.
I was going to go
was just
back
gonna
to the
say-
high points of the rest of the movie. Then after they do that, she has a change of heart. She gives the money back, and he ends up with all the money, and he gets his bar back, and everything's wonderful at the end.
and
So
we'll get to
let's
that.
go
That
back.
ending is so dumb. We'll get back
Yes.
to that in a minute. Pete, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this is the point where you think the movie is just about to end, but it's almost like a whole nother movie is starting.
Mhm.
Right.
And
not a
you
good one.
watch it, it's like, yeah, exactly. And so,
Well,
it's
but
like,
he saves
like
it,
they
'cause he
introduce a
does
new
have the
plot,
funny
sort of.
lines in this part.
Yes.
Yeah, that's just
Liotta
it.
is awesome in this.
It's
whole...
a better movie. This is
Meaning-
a better movie than the middle.
So my favorite is they're at the wedding, and the mother-in-law of Jason Lee is talking to him, and she asks him, like, what does he do? And he says he's a college professor. And she says, what do you teach? And he goes, you know, I teach what? You teach college stuff. What are you, a fucking cop? Right?
Yes.
Well, and they asked him if he knows how to take care of a body, and his response is, I'm from Jersey, aren't I? Like, it's just one thing after. He's got so many great lines. But before the part with the mother-in-law, those lines that he had, his response when Jennifer Love Hewitt's character leaves, and he goes to the mother-in-law, she's shy as shit.
He doesn't
Like,
have a lot of tact.
No, he has zero tact. But he loves being part of this con, because now he gets to have a character, and they play it where he's the brother of Sigourney Weaver, and they're cousins to Jennifer Love Hewitt's character. So he kind of likes doing that bit.
There's one other part I liked. There's one other, not physical, but visual gag. So
Okay.
while the mom is off trying to seduce Jason Lee, which you know he's never going to give in to her no matter what, and we find
Right.
out she drugged him, and that you're right, that's all dumb.
Yep.
But Jennifer Love Hewitt is sitting there with Ray Liotta, and she says she's not worried, but you can tell she is. And he says, "Is that why you're melting down the remote? Because she's changing like a million channels at once." And it just shows him, and the remote just slams against the wall and shatters right behind his head.
Right next to his head.
You don't see her
That
throw
made
it,
me
you just
laugh.
see it hit the wall, and that was really well done. That was funny as shit.
And what was his line?
Totally
like,
not
like,
expecting it to happen so fast.
something like cute is all he said.
Well, yeah,
Like,
I
he
think
just
he
barely moves his head so the remote misses him, and he's like, cute. Oh my god. So yeah, it just kind of falls off the rails at the end. Max and Dean end up getting together. We come to find out that Max's mentor Barbara steals all of their money. So now the last scene of the movie is Dean sitting at a table and he's talking to a woman, telling her how beautiful she is, and it's Barbara, and they're basically going to run a scam using Ray as the main runner in this.
Well, and it's probably not worth it to talk about it or think. But the other thing I just hated, so at the end, after she, even though it wasn't her fault, after they rip off Jason Lee, she gets the money and she goes and buys the bar back. And all of a sudden, every friend is on her side and she's just standing there. And he just walks in and like, doesn't she have to explain where the money came? She has a lot of explaining to do.
Right.
And there's just none. He just hugs her and they're all good.
Yeah, that's what I didn't get.
You got a lot of explaining to do, Lucy.
She's that hot.
Right.
She has no
She's
explaining
that
to do.
Just let it go. Let it go.
Yep.
We're just gonna sweep that under the rug.
Yeah.
I know. I said it wasn't worth thinking about. It was just like kind of the final nail in the coffin. Like I said, I loved this back then, and I was so excited to watch it. So
Maybe the movie was about 45 minutes late.
yeah, it was
longer
somewhat
after it got
disappointing.
cut out
I
of it.
didn't hate it. I probably sound like I hated it. I didn't hate it. It was just way, way too long, and it just drags in parts, and that's not what I remember about it. But what I also forgot is how good Ray Liotta was, and the fact that we picked it for him makes it really cool because he was easily the best part of the movie, besides Jennifer Love Hewitt's clothes, I guess.
Oh, her clothes aren't that great. It's what she looks like in them.
So anyway, I know that now I've got it out of my system. I won't need to watch this movie again probably ever in my life.
No.
But I was glad I watched it.
Yeah.
Now I know.
Pete, what's your other takeaways besides it's about 45 minutes too long?
Next week we're
overall.
gonna watch this movie. Next week we're gonna review this movie again, and I'm gonna make you guys watch it over again.
Because you're going to remember Gene Hackman's going to die tomorrow, and then you're going to pick this.
Yes.
That's right. Oh, that would be amazing.
That would be amazing that Gene Hackman dies
With
tomorrow?
apologies to Gene Hackman, I apologize. That would be something.
Good Lord.
We love Gene Hackman,
Yes.
and we hope that doesn't happen. But it would be an amazing coincidence now after Brad said it if that actually happens.
If he did die, we'd talk about Hoosiers.
Yes. We would do that. There's a lot. That would be a long list of movies that we could do. Anyway, I digress. I kind of had the same opinion as Brad did on it because it just was too long. I was like, I was expecting the movie to be about an hour and a half. I thought, okay, I'll be done with this movie by 7:30 or something, be able to have the rest of the evening. And then I checked it, and it's like, wow, there's another half hour left in this movie. Yeah. And there's about 4 points where I thought it was wrapping up to a conclusion, and it just kept going.
It's the same thing as like the Judd Apatow syndrome, where I like all his movies, but so many of them are just like a half hour too long. It's just like he can't take stuff out, and like it's just too much.
Right.
So
yeah, but it was a decent movie.
It's fun.
I had fun watching it overall. Again, it's a good one that I hadn't seen before, enjoyable, and most importantly, I had fun talking about it with you guys tonight.
I did have fun.
Oh, that's outstanding. Well, thank you guys for watching it. I appreciate it. I still like it. I think it's good. Again, I think the parts are greater than the whole. I think it's probably the best way to put it.
Yes.
You know,
and I probably remembered all the stuff I liked about it, and then realized now that actually it doesn't quite add up.
That would be, what's the opposite of synergy? because that would be like, well, the parts are greater than the whole, which is,
Right.
I don't know. Is there?
Oh
There's
my
got
goodness.
like an anti-synergy.
I
Yes.
think we
Anyway, go on.
please.
All right. So obviously, if I was gonna pick the seminal Ray Liotta movie, I would have picked Goodfellas, but that's not really, in our, we usually do more lighthearted stuff.
Well, but we
That's
might
a
get to that
lot. That's a
someday.
lot to digest. That movie.
The only reason I didn't
would
pick
have
it,
to
I didn't want to
do.
watch a 3-hour movie here in December before Christmas. But when we do 1990, that doesn't mean we won't do it.
That's true.
We would have to do a 2-hour episode of Pop Culture Yearbook on that movie.
Mm-hmm. So
It'll be like those double VHS tapes. You'll have to
Yeah.
put us in
Oh,
double
yeah.
packaging.
Mhm.
Yeah. I could upload it twice, and it'd be episode whatever A and B.
Mhm.
Anyway, go on.
So to wrap this up tonight, for our top fives, I put forth the idea of our top 5 confidence movies, where you got a con man, a con woman, you got some ruse
I
about.
call it con artist.
Yes, con artists.
When you said you put on the thing confidence movies,
I had no idea what he was talking
I at
about.
first I was like, well, Rudy.
Oh. Well, con man is short for confidence man.
Got it.
I didn't really know that
Let's
until I
look
looked it
into
up for this for you.
Huh,
So-
I did not know that either. But
Who would like to kick off their list?
I'll go first.
go ahead, Brad.
I never go
Go for
first
it.
on these things.
Yeah.
So one I wrote down we talked about once was The Usual Suspects, which I don't know. I guess I don't remember. Whatever. Moving on. Number 6 and number 5, I have 2 sports movies that I love. One was White Man Can't Jump, and Kingpin, which I think we just brought that up recently
We
for
did.
something else too. But
Yep.
Kingpin is obviously
I
fantastic.
think for buddy movies.
Oh yeah, buddy movies. There you go. Number 4, I mentioned this movie one other time. This is a Steve Martin drama movie, The Spanish Prisoner, which I told you to watch, Gifford, and usually
I didn't yet. Sorry, I'll get to it.
I'm going to watch it too because it's been so long. Number 3, Ocean's 11. That's fun, and I like the old one too because I love the Rat Pack. And then my top 2 could kind of interchange. These are 2 of my favorite movies of the 80s and of all time: A Fish Called Wanda and Trading Places. And Trading Places, I have at number 1.
Oh, nice.
I mean, that is, oh God, that's so good. That's it.
Excellent. I'm surprised. I'm a little surprised at one you don't have on there. Pete, go ahead.
I honorable mention. I had Goodfellas. I had The Usual Suspects, and I had 21.
Ah, 21, yep.
The gambling movie. I thought that was
Yes.
That's a fun movie. Then number 5, I had Pulp Fiction. Number 4, I had Road to Perdition.
Yeah, you and me went to that movie.
We did. It was
We
the
talked
3 of
about
us.
that on
I
here
was
already.
I was the third wheel. Yes. 3, I matched with Brad. I had A Fish Called Wanda. I knew you'd have that one. 2, I had Italian Job.
Yep.
And number 1, I had Ocean's 11.
Excellent list.
Those top Ocean's 11 and the Italian Job are ones that my wife and I can watch over and over again, and we love it every time.
All right, that's a great list. Of course, I'm going to include Heartbreakers as an honorable mention on here. A movie that came out a couple years ago, I Care a Lot, which is an infuriating movie to watch. I can't remember the actress's name.
Oh,
now.
it's from Gone Girl.
Yeah. Yes, that actress.
And I can't think of her name either. Rosamund Pike.
Yes. The other one that I have as a honorable mention that hasn't been listed yet is the movie Confidence with Ed Burns and Rachel Weisz. That's a very good one. So my number 5 is American Hustle. My number 4 is Catch Me If You Can. My number 3, that wasn't said by anybody yet, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels.
Yeah,
Can't believe neither
as much
one
as I
of
love Steve Martin, that one just never hit with me. Like, I mean, it's okay.
Oh,
And
I mean,
that's another one where
There's a
there's like
couple
certain there's scenes and moments that you remember and love,
Yes.
but the movie as a whole, I don't think I like it as much as most of his other ones. It's
May I
okay.
go to the bathroom?
Thank
that
you.
and the whole poking him
Thank
in
you.
the eye with eye patch and
Ruprecht! Do I need to get the genital cuff again?
I think I've actually only seen that movie once. I might have to watch it again.
God, I love that movie. That is
I don't remember much of it, but that's what I remember about it, is that it wasn't that great, but there were some really funny scenes.
I would disagree. I think it's great.
Mm-hmm.
My number 2 is Ocean's 11. I could watch Ocean's 11 any day of the week. And my number 1, the correct number 1, the only number 1, 1973's The Sting, is one of the greatest movies that was ever produced. And if nobody's seen The Sting with Robert Redford and Paul Newman, I highly, highly recommend it.
Yeah, that's one of those I know.
Robert Shaw also.
Are you not a Fish Called Wanda fan?
It was on my honorable mentions.
Oh, it was, okay.
So I just left it off because you guys had said it. So
talk about great lines over and over. How many
I own that on DVD, for crying out loud. I have A Fish Called Wanda. Yes.
Pete, how many of those lines do we say over and over in high school?
Thousands.
Pork away, pal.
Pork away.
Benito Mussolini.
The only thing that would have made that line better is if he said hump for Brad.
Yep.
Anyway. Brad loves the word hump.
No, in that case, pork away, pal was better. It's the alliteration and.
Yeah. One of the one of the lesser known songs by our favorite band Preacher Row, Pork Away.
Then Hump.
Then Hump. Well, they have a Hump.
Yeah, Hump is the drummer.
Yeah, they do that.
Matter of fact.
So that's pretty much all I had for this one. You guys got anything else? Do we want to preview what we got for next week, Pete?
Well, because it is Dead Man's Month. One person that we lost, a great actor who actually could have been listed many times on our con men movies, with the Godfather movies, as well as the one that we're going to talk about. Actually,
and just his name in general.
It's that category. Yeah. Oh, well done. James
Our favorite con man. Yeah.
And where I first came to know James Caan, just because I was at the right age, was the movie Honeymoon in Vegas, and so we're gonna talk about that one.
And I am so excited to watch that again too, Pete. And I hope it lives up a little better than this one did.
Yes,
it does.
And I think it will, because Nicolas Cage is great, and I know I love. When was the last
time you saw it, Brad?
Actually, I think I watched it within the last 2 years.
I watched it 2 years ago. A little over 2 years, because it was just before the pandemic started. Because we went to Las Vegas in February, right before the pandemic started, and we watched the movie in preparation for the trip to Vegas.
Yes. Awesome. And of course, we did just do Elf last year at this time, so you could go back and listen to that James Caan episode as well.
Yes.
Please do.
But speaking of convicts, our favorite band.
Yes.
Preacher Row. Let's get them going.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
No one's here to comfort me. Sorry for what I have done. Sorry that your song is gone. 7 steps and it will be my last. And start to me on my back. I turn and I look to you. I'm scared, but there's nothing I can do.